Shalom, Rod. How you doing today? Oh, you're on mute.
Doing good. No complaints.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Feeling the day catch up with me though. Whew. How
So you
about you, David?
survived. You survived the Christian holidays.
Yes, I did. With not an air thought of it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Hey buddy, how's it going? Tell your son I said hi.
Doing well. That's Truman over there.
Truman! He's
Hello.
the man. What's up?
He's
Oh, true man. That's get true man. I like that.
older brothers are out of town for a couple days with my in-laws.
Oh, okay.
Back from Arkansas today.
So he spent some time out in the country or something, or they live in
Yeah.
the city, or
My father-in-law went up to see his mom. She's like 90 years old.
oh wow. Man,
Yeah.
they said regularly we're going to be hitting 100 years old average in a few years.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go see my grandmother tonight. She's 98 and she's doing real well.
Woof. Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't know that I've had, I guess my grandmother may have been 93. My parents died in their 80s, late 80s. Tar, anything new going on with you?
Uh, not really. I done
Anything new or just getting older?
Well, yeah, that's the norm.
talk about my dad passed away when he was 73. I'll be 70 my next birthday, and that's kind of
Oh,
scary,
wow.
but I'm a
Yeah.
lot older she was. So my mom, she was 93 or 4, I think, and went. So
I think the average of my ancestor patriarch was in their late 60s. So
Whoa.
I'm doing good so far. I'm happy.
you know what? We were some
May you
friends
both live to be 120.
Yeah,
Baruch
so
Hashem. Yes,
We were some
that's
friends
my
last
plan.
night. We were discussing what's being learned in school nowadays, high school, and it's terrifying. It is
Wow.
extremely
Oh, I bet.
terrifying that there is no one, very, very few coming up with any kind of education. It to me, it's almost like all these immigrants that are coming in. Yeah, they're better educated and got better moral values than most of the kids in school now, and
Yeah,
that's
the kids in school are being taught uh, sociological
yeah.
stuff that has nothing to do with education.
Yeah, reading, writing, arithmetic. That's
Right.
that's not on the curriculum at all.
Right.
Science, government, history, nah, none of
Well,
that.
they don't teach civics anymore in school.
What's that?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
used to be
Rod,
required
are
to
you
know.
okay if I do an intro and
Oh
you can
yeah,
tell us
yeah.
what's going on with
go for
Natif?
it.
Yeah.
I'm already up live and a few people up there.
Okay.
Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series with our friends at Nativ down in the Houston Zoom room. We're just waiting on Rabbi Ingber to arrive, and we'll look forward. I enjoyed his message last week. But in the meantime, let's jump right in and say hello to Rod Bryant down in Nativ, and maybe he can tell us what's fresh and new down there
Hi,
with
guys.
Nativ.
A
Rod,
lot of
you're
great,
live on
a
our
lot.
air.
Thank you so much. A lot of great stuff is happening in Nativ. It's our family here, obviously from really all over the country and the world, and it really is. We're very fortunate to have a community of people like this that come together and study, encourage each other, study the Torah, challenge each other with questions that need to be answered, and also challenge our rabbis. That's sort of part of the whole thing. We're going to challenge
To
our
learn, yeah.
rabbis to provide us new information. So it's such a honor to be able to do that. And now we have Rabbi Ingber that comes in each Sunday, and he's going to pick up doing sort of a deep trod into the concept of the 7 Noahide laws, the Sheva Mitzvot, and to look at the nuances of them, because when you get them, all these laws have most definite nuances that go all the way rooted back into many of the 613 commandments. So I'm really, really thrilled about this. Matter of fact, I had a Jewish guy from Israel send me a text and was asking me to explain the concept of the Sheva Mitzvot and how they're rooted in the other Torah, other parts of the Torah, as well as the oral Torah. And it was like a light went off. He's like, that makes sense. You know, you hear Sheva Mitzvot, just Sheva Mitzvot, just Sheva Mitzvot. And no one ever explains, not only do they not explain what the Sheva Mitzvot are, they don't even go into the detail of how to live that out consciously. So we're excited. Rabbi Ingber, are you about ready to roll? Oh, just a second. So I'll keep on. I'll keep on yakking about
Anything
it.
new down there? You guys,
No, we're just
More classes?
actually we just no same classes. I do know that I have another person wanting to do another series, but I think I'm going to do that on another day. So I'm still trying to work on the details on that. But it'll be more of a polemic discussion about
once your
Christianity.
schedule
And,
gets full, it's full. I get it.
yeah, it's full. Yeah, it really is. It's not that I really get into a lot of polemic studies, but I know someone who does, and he has a gentle way of sort of bringing out these differences between Christianity and then what Judaism and Torah actually says. So we're working on the details. I asked him to send me an outline or a syllabus so I can kind of know the plan at the time. But it really is it's an exciting time. We're well over 21,000 subscribers, so we're very happy about that. And
Good to hear.
life is
Good to hear.
treating us well. Life is. How about you, Dan?
Well, I mean, there's always room for improvement. You know, I've been doing a lot more work outside in the past year, and you know, I handed out a Brit Shalom book. I doing security. I have a post and a patrol. So when I post up, I find I meet a lot of local people, and I've been in conversations with lots of people. And yesterday, I had a 74-year-old gentleman stop, and I gave him a copy of a Brit Shalom book, and we've been having conversations. And so he's asking all kinds of conversations. He actually took the book home in the morning about 8:30, and then came back by 2:00 in the afternoon before my shift ended with a bunch of questions. So, you know, you get out there, and you know, everyday life is important. So how you live it can make or break the difference in someone else's life. It's not just about all the personal study time, but I find when I do get my post, I can read a bit. So I've been reading a lot of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov lately, and lots of books. So always new ideas and room to grow for sure. And I enjoy this class. This class has been getting pretty heated up the last several weeks. I enjoy where Rabbi Ingber's taking it, and so I see he's with us now. If want to turn it over to him, and Rabbi Ingber, so good to be with you, sir. And we're gonna give the class over to you, and look forward to hearing what you have to share. Oh, you're muted. No, your microphone's muted. Oh yeah, on the Zoom app. The Zoom app, you've got your microphone muted. No, you just turned your camera. Okay, your camera's good. You need to turn on the microphone. I think you can send them a prompt on let me see if I can send you a prompt here.
Now, you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now,
Okay.
Rabbi. You're live on the air, and I'll blink this out for you.
Okay, good. So good to see everybody. Let's talk about a lot of things. Yeah, last week I started introduction. I wanted you to understand the 7 commandments, the 7 mitzvot. Yes, there are larger numbers, larger details, but 7 is a significant number, and it has a structure, and it's an inclusive concepts. So we talked last week about the idea of understanding one God and no other power, and how that's central to a lot of the bad stuff coming out of the world today. And people, how, when you say I'm a good person, but you don't believe in God, so what does that mean? Are you really a good person? We'll get into that more deeply. I want to do one of the other ones we talked about, and I explained a little bit the idea of there's different kinds of relationships you could have. You could have three kinds of relationships between humans and fellow humans, right? Between you and God, and you and yourself. Those are the three types of relationships you have, because a person, and they're all interconnected in the sense that there's no such thing as being a nice person to other people and not understanding it comes from God. And likewise, you can't act properly towards God and not right to the people he created, and same thing with yourself. If you're not going to act properly to yourself, and that's where people misunderstand the concept, if you're not going to act properly to yourself, then you are going to be negative to your relationship to God and to other people. Now, when I say that, people say, what do you mean? I'm good to myself. Isn't that giving myself whatever I want? And the answer is no. To be good to yourself, you need to understand who you really are and what you really want. Because if you, by nature, really want bad things, that's a problem. And the truth is that people that are like that are not tapping into the godly way that they were created. They're not tuned into the verse that says that God made man b'tselem Elokim, in the divine image. There's an aspect of whatever you want to call it, because there's different technical names, but the aspect of soul, the aspect of a part that is an image of the divine. Obviously, God has no image, but in the different ways that we talk about it, either it means they can understand, we could choose between good and evil, all the various explanations, what it means to be that type of entity. So when a person feels that they are doing things that are they have different wants, different desires, so very often they're hooking up to the external part of themselves. And if they hooked into the deeper part of themselves, they might realize that that's not what I really want. So, for example, if I'm addicted to something, I might want it physically, right? I might want this drugs, I'm addicted to it. I might want the food I'm addicted to. But the deeper part of myself knows this is not good for me. Okay? So I want to talk about the commandments, the 7 Noach commandments about illicit relations. Okay? And I want to take it from a very different angle than we normally hear about, and we can get into the specifics of what is forbidden and not forbidden, but I want to take it from the positive side to understand what we are striving for. And this verse in the Torah is one of the sources for the forbidden nature of some of the illicit relations. So the verse says in the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, it says, Al Kain Yazov Ish Aviv Esimo. So when after God created Chava, Eve, so Adam realized this was his other half. He had looked at the creation, he had seen everything, and he knew nothing was his match. He meditated on the nature of the lion, the nature of the bear, the nature of all things in the created world, and he knew that he was not his equal. It was not his other half, was not in the picture. Then God brings Chava to him, Eve, and he says, this time it is bone for my bone, flesh for my flesh. This will be called the woman. She comes from me, she's a part of me. Okay. Now the verse says, Al Ken, therefore, Yazov Isha Vivasimo, a person will leave a man will leave his father and mother. The Davak Beishto, he will cling to his wife. The Hayu Lebasar Echad, and there'll be one flesh. This is actually the source of some of the different forbidden aspects of forbidden relationships for the Noahide. So, for example, it says a man should be unified with his wife, not someone else's wife. Okay, adultery. Davak means two things that will actually come together, that can unify. And they will be one flesh, something that could make one flesh. So, for example, and I'm gonna leave this for the discussion now. What can make one flesh? Well, you can't produce a child from a relationship between a human being and an animal. As a matter of fact, you can't have what's called the dveikut, the clinging, the uniting, the melding into oneness that the male-female dimension creates. And I want you to understand this, because before telling you all the things that we can't do, we have to understand where we're going. What are we trying to create? We're trying to create a union of male-female that becomes one. This is a different concept what people understand in the world. Now, let me explain this to you so you understand. And this is really, people are all obviously up in arms today because they have their things that they decided that logically this is okay, it's acceptable, it's the right thing. And before getting into saying these people, I'm sure everyone on this station, in this group could understand it, but people in the world who have major issues of homosexuality and all different abbreviations, just let me explain what we're going for and to understand it. If I take, let's say, a piece of wood, and this is a graphic model, but it is a literal model. I take a piece of wood and I carve out this piece of wood into two. Okay? That when I put them together, the piece of wood becomes one piece of wood again, like a jigsaw puzzle. The only way you could actually have oneness is when the piece was one, and the carving you made was exactly meant to reconnect. The male-female dimension, and this is, if you look at it biologically, you'll see it's obvious. There is, I don't want to be too graphic, but we all can understand this. There is, in the spiritual realms, what happens is there's something called a mashpiyas and the giver, the receiver, in whatever dynamics we have that. If you look at the biology of male-female, you understand how, just on the biological level, it's built in such a way that they fit together, okay? The biological level is not separate from the spiritual, emotional, and psychological level. It's a reflection of it. And therefore, what happens right now is that, and this is why a person that is meant to be married to the right person, their other half, is a perfect fit. Because what happens is that that's the way it was carved out. The deeper meaning of the souls being one, and then carving out that there's a place where they come together, is the idea of becoming one. That's what the verse says. The verse is v'davak be'ishto, that the male and the female have this thing of dveikus. Dveikus is there's not a good word in English. I said cleave, but it's not the right word. It's a complete unification. That if the piece does not fit into the system, if it's not carved out from the original one piece, it won't fit exactly right. Certainly, if I have two, so to speak, pieces in a jigsaw puzzle that are both protruding or both indented, then they won't go together. The qualification here of the relationship is to become one. And I explained this to you once before. Let me just bring it again. We once asked the question: what is better, birds that flock together, birds of the feather flock together, or opposites attract? Which one is more correct? The two sayings are completely opposite, right? Birds of a feather flock together. It means that the more you are like somebody, the more you will have connection with them. And an opposite attract means the people that are opposite, well, they like each other more. So which one of these things is true? How do we understand what's going on in the world? So the first level of the answer is similar things are what like each other. And if you look at that, you'll see I have someone that is like me. I feel automatically a connection, right? You go meet somebody, you say, "Where are you from?" Why do you say your statement? The guy says, "I'm from Texas." And you say, "Yeah, really? Do you know Jim?" I know Jim. I mean, how many guys named Jim are there in Texas? Why'd you ask me the question? Because you were building a connection with me. We have something in common, right? We're both from Texas. A guy named Jim, right? So the people look for commonality. So the sages ask, so how do you have a male, female? If they like commonality, how do male, female unite? And the verse says to us, Zocher v'nekeva, God created everything, the male, female to unite. So how is it possible then, if people naturally like people that are more like them, how does the male, female unite now? Wait. So the sages tell us like this, explain the following. I gave this example before, but when I am hot, I just ran, I want a cold drink. And I'm cold, I want a hot drink. Why do I want the opposite there? Because I'm not looking for something like me that I could relate to. I'm looking for someone that is part of me. I am looking to be completed. That's a completely different idea. When I'm hot, I need something cold. I'm cold, I need something hot. It's not because I'm myself and I'm looking for someone like me to converse with. No. The male-female becomes one literally. There's a famous story of Rabbi Aryeh Levine. One time he went to the doctor because his wife had a problem with her leg. And he went to the doctor and he said, "Doctor, we have a big problem." That's what's the problem? Doctor, our leg is hurting us. Doctor said, "What?" Our leg is hurting us. And the doctor cleans his ear 3 times. Who's the patient here? But that's the answer. The answer was that we are the patient. He felt his wife's leg like his own leg. That's really, and that is actually, in Jewish law, the law is that a man must love his wife like himself and honor her more than himself. If he has one pillow, he gives it to the wife. So again, there's obligations male towards female, female towards male. So this is where the world has gone nuts, because they don't understand that men and women are different. They need different things. And everyone's pointing, you need to do this, and you need to do that. No. When I teach male and female how to interact, I first do it separate. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is a relationship between you and God also. You have to act properly towards your wife. Wife, you have to act properly towards your husband. And so everyone has to understand, what do I need to do? Now, generally speaking, when you do the right thing, there's a reciprocality in the relationship, reciprocity. So that would usually happen. But what happens is that every person has to understand, we're not, once the world has come out with this new idea that, which they developed since the 50s, and for all years they've been messed up in this whole male-female dynamic. But women and men are the same. No, they're different. No, they're the same. No, there's not men and women anymore. So the whole feminist movement changed, right? Back in the 50s, it was started out in the first feminist wave was that women and men are the same. If you give a girl a truck and you give a boy a Barbie doll, so they'll want to play that. That was the first idea. That didn't work, and then it changed. It became Carol Gilligan did studies in the 90s that showed men and women were different, and everyone was, wow, how could that be? And now, well, they've tried a new system. There's no men, there's no women. But these things are not true. Men have certain qualities, certain ways to see the world. Women have different ways. And what happens is a couple becomes one unit. They blend and they're supposed to meld to become really one. The differences are not, just random differences. The differences are completing the whole. And that really is to understand what's behind the whole problem of the various illicit relations. So it says Vidova Beish is that a meld with his wife, they have to be of male female where they can actually meld into one, not where there are two things that don't meld into one. If they have to create a child because they become basar echad, they become one flesh, they have to be able to create a child together. So a human being can't go and have relations with an animal because they cannot become one, they cannot become united. That is the root of all of the details. All of the details of what is forbidden in illicit relations. For the Noachites, this is also for Jews, even though there are various differences in the practical halacha. But you have to understand the deeper idea here. Instead of looking at what can't you do, look at it what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to build a relationship with a male-female uniting and understanding that we are different, we have different responsibilities, how we have to act towards each other. But my other half is my half. In Jewish law, we don't consider a person who's not married, we don't consider him whole in many ways. He's not called a full person for many aspects of Jewish law. To become whole, this is needed. Now, again, I know sometimes it's difficult. I know sometimes people have not found the person they could marry, and really the advice for that is if what I'm saying to you now, I think is the impractical advice to go to the next stage of development, because when a person realizes that's how I'm going to be whole, I just got to do it. I my mind is towards it. I pray, I ask God, and then the doors are going to open up, because you realize how central this really is to your existence. And that's why I think I mentioned to you once, I saw a book on marriage and relationships, and it was a pretty good book. This guy named Harville Hendricks, a pretty good book. Not bad. He had some good ideas, but from the title of the book, I knew he was wrong from the title. The title of the book already he lost me. The title was called "Getting the Love You Want." I knew he was wrong already. He would call the book "Giving the Love You Should," then I would have said it's a good book. Because what Harville Hendricks was trying to do is he had this whole idea about evolution, and some parts were actually pretty good in the sense, but he missed the point that there's different levels you relate to your spouse, to your partner, and what happens is that since you have to fill each other, you're going to find that your spouse will have challenges. And everyone's gotten married and believes that now we're in love and now everything's going to be so perfect. They're not in reality, because pretty soon after you get together, you realize, wait a minute, there's a lot of issues that we each have. Oh, was this a mistake? The answer is no, not necessarily, probably not. And this is a very important thing. The answer is that very often, in normal cases, your spouse's problems and challenges are what you need to work on to give to become whole. You hear what I'm saying? If you really view this as a union, and like I said in the story, Rabbi Ari Levine, and he said to the doctor, our leg hurts. If you really view it as one unit, you realize that the person you end up with may have challenges. And it's not just, oh, they have that problem and I want to get rid of that. That very often is what you have to actually do in your own development to give to that person where they have a shortcoming, and vice versa. So what happens is that the root of the forbidden aspect in the 7 Noahide laws of illicit relations, with all of their parameters, we could talk about those parameters in a minute, but the root of it is that every human being should strive to connect to somebody in a male-female bond that they will become one with, meld into one person, and that is the sense of wholeness. And that's and specifically it comes with the male-female dimension being so different that I need to give. It's like, it's like a guy is like, it's an example. I used to live in Atlanta. So, the guy loves his wife. Wants to give his wife a present. He buys her season tickets to the Falcons. Well, that's very nice if your wife happens to like football. But if she doesn't and you're giving yourself a present, that's not the point. The point is that the way they relate, other person relates to something which is so different. It's like, with all the counseling, this is well known, but I you see it a million times, where a couple comes in and they start with the same story. The wife says the husband comes home and she's telling him this frustrated, that frustrated her. And the husband starts to say, I know what you should do. Do this, do that. And the wife says, you're not listening to me. He says, I did listen to it. I told you what to do. I heard it and I solved it. And this is well-known stereotypical things, but it's really true. And I know, like myself, like for years in my marriage, it was like there were points where I would have to like just bite my tongue. I heard the idea, what my wife said. I had a really good male solution. Like I knew what I was going to say, but I knew she wasn't finished expressing herself. And until I got good at it, I had to just tell myself, shut up, dummy. Don't say anything. Listen. She's saying more. Don't go into your own mode. Well, what was that about? Because I function differently. When I'm sitting with my guy friends, maybe we'll solve it that way. But that's not my world. I had to be in the other person's world. The level of giving that's required is a stretch of the person because it's expanding themselves to include this whole other dimension that is part of them. That's what the verse says to us. The verse says that a man will leave his husband, his father or mother, and he will davak beishto, he will unite with his wife, and they will become one flesh. That's the goal. And therefore, let's look at it in the positive, understanding that the 7 Noahide laws is encouraging that potential to really unite with someone and to feel that I expanded out of my own, instead of giving to someone like me, I have given to fulfill myself, complete myself with my other half that completes and makes me whole. All right, that's my thought. I'm going to open up to ideas, comments, and questions.
Who would like to go first?
I wouldn't mind asking a question if I may.
Yeah, please, Stephen.
Hello, Rabbi.
Hey.
Because I'm sort of establishing myself in this new place, and I'm trying to sort of get my stuff together, and I need to know where I stand. I always seem to be putting off this meeting someone else. Although this year I feel like I'm sort of ready for it now, and I've put my supplications out, I've said my prayers, and so I'm sort of having to sort of just continually remind myself that I'm trusting in Hashem according to these various different promises. But the question I have for you is, when it says it's not good that man is by himself.
Right. Right.
I don't understand why. After what you've just said, obviously it makes a lot of sense. But I don't like to think in my singularity that I'm experiencing something that's not good. That's why I've always battled with. I've got a few Catholic sort of associates, and one of them always keeps reminding me of this. Oh, it's not good for man to live on his own, like in a kind of condescending fashion. But I can understand that two parts being one, and I understand what you've just said. But surely being single and studying and doing what I'm doing, it's not that bad. It doesn't mean to say that it's not good. It really does bug me, that one that one sort
Well,
of, you know.
I think that let's just define our terms here. There's obviously always a phase where a person should be alone, right? People don't get married when they're born, right? There's a certain point where a person can go and expand and take another person. Now, it doesn't mean that, therefore, if a person, like you said, you're working on it, you're developing, you're doing yourself, you're doing something else, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a sin to be in a situation where you are before being married. It doesn't mean that you're right now doing something, if you have a rationale and a reason and a situation, that you're not developing this part because you're working on some other stuff. So that would be an issue of prioritizing. So right now I'm doing this, I can't do that. It doesn't. I don't think that itself is an indication of being bad. As I said, person, well, when he's 10 years old, he's by himself. When he's 15 years old, I mean, depends. What's the point when a person is living their life and doing positive things, but has not come to the stage where they're ready to become united with somebody? So I understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily have to call that being bad. Not good means that it's not coming to a state of wholeness, that when you're ready to, you should. And I think that maybe it's important that we had this discussion, because you're right. Look, I know people who if they would have gotten married when they had some mistaken ideas, they would have gone down very bad paths. So yeah, I think, like, for example, like you're saying right now, with understanding your value system, understanding what it means, the 7 nullified laws, understanding that there's a source to how to act. Yeah, I could tell you retroactively, it's probably a good thing that you didn't go down that other path to get married in a way that would have prevented you and possibly contrary to that. But whatever stage you're at, it sounds like now that we had this discussion, you're thinking that, okay, I may be moving into that stage where it'll be the next stage of my development. And I mean, I don't think anyone come along and say, oh yeah, the time before was not right. I don't know which time is right. It doesn't. There is no, for Jews, there's a discussion when they should get married. There's a time. There's not really a time by Noachites that I haven't seen any place. But I think that it's an issue of readiness for it, and wanting it and thinking it's an important thing, thinking it's a good thing. And I think that that's something that maybe you picked up today. It's why we had this conversation. Because, as we develop and as we learn, as we grow, and we are single, so that we're inclined to say, well, okay, this is what it is. And should I look for something else? Is it a good thing to look for something else? And it is. It is a good thing. It's a good thing to move into that type of relationship. The 7 Noachide laws is not, we learn it out what you can't do. I'm giving you just the opposite side to know the positive, and to understand a little bit more deeply what the negative laws of the 7 Noachide laws are. Because, people will say to me, okay, what is wrong with homosexuality? People ask the question, and you can go and you can say, you can quote the verse, you quote that. I'm taking a very soft-handed approach with explaining it. But if you hear what we said, we explain to you the rationale of why that other union doesn't work. It is not a creating one flesh. It is not having the ability to create one flesh, and it does not have the ability to meld into that process. So you know, like I said, the laws of the seven Noachide laws is in the negative, not to have commit adultery, not to have relations with certain people that you cannot unite with, you know, certain family members. There's verses they learn out all these things from. Not to have bestiality, not to homosexuality is forbidden in the seven laws of Noach and in the Torah. So, but now you understand why. So to keep the seven Noachide laws, stay away from the things that don't connect. To understand the power of what you have, understand the value of the connection, and say, okay, thank God I'm on a good path now. I'm hearing where I should be going, and maybe this is the next step in my development right now.
Thank you very much for explaining that. May I just ask one little caveat question?
Sure.
Obviously, I'm thinking. Obviously, you know, I think further than what I ought to think, so maybe that's not a good thing. But I keep thinking to myself, I've never even met a Noahide in this area. I've never even met anyone that pertains to the integrity of the Shiva Mitzvah, and this is my life. So if I meet somebody else, who's to say if they're gonna take me? You know, I don't want them to take me off on their tangent, on their thinking. I'd like to think I could meet somebody that was on the same similarity of what I'm thinking now. But I feel like that is going to be the needle in the haystack, and it always kind of puts me off. I think, oh, do I have to really?
I don't think
know.
so. I know it looks like that, and there may be more organizational structures we can develop so can meet each other. I think that's an important endeavor that we should be striving for in the Noachide world. I would be happy to be part of that. I think it's an important thing. I don't think it's going to be as hard because I first of all know that God runs the world and directs the world. When a person wants to do something good, he gets led in that positive way. And I think that something else that is something, the reason why the Noachide process, which has been around forever, you know, the verse I quoted to you of the Noachide laws was what God told Adam. So this is going back to the very beginning. You know, we always had the seven Noachide laws, and people did it for a period of time, and then the world got whatever and went to different paths. And really a very fascinating shift that happened, which was that, you know, the Jewish belief, which in ancient world was idolatry, barbarianism, and paganism, as opposed to belief in an omnipotent, beneficent God, monotheism of Abraham, Avram, and Torah. So originally there was only that, the Torah, and then there was the seven laws of Noach, and then everything else was very pagan but what happened is, in a strange sort of twist of how the world played out, is the Jewish belief spread throughout the world. And then what happened was the other people adopted and took the Jewish thing and said, okay, now we're the new Jews. And they've taken things from the Torah, and they've taken things, and they talk about, you know, one God and sort of one God and kindness and things that they take now as taken for granted, but really that was just that was the Jewish view as opposed to the rest of the world. And they made themselves, you know, a lot of other religions. And what's happening in the world is that you know, that had its heyday, you know, in medieval times, and the fear. If you ever look at medieval art, you know, there's a lot of, you know, there was a lot of pressure and belief. Now the world has become is questioning those things. And I think that the reason why people are looking back to find the seven laws of Noach is because they're able to think more clearly. They're not in the mindset of the idolaters of the past. Most people, and many people, have become much more indoctrinated to a deeper thinking on a higher level, to realize there is one God. And most people, I don't know, certainly if you speak to a Muslim, they'll say believe in one God. And I think even if you speak to a lot of Christians, they may have some math issues, but I think that a lot of them will would like to define it as one God, with whatever explanations that they'll have. But the mind no longer rejects that. The mind of most people now is in line with the idea that well, yeah, that would make sense. So you really have the people that just deny God and live in the world of accidents, which I mentioned last week, really is the basis of the woke culture. It was the basis of communism. It's the world is random. There is nothing, and there's no male, female, there's nothing anymore. So that's the I'm gonna plug my phone in 1 second. Just excuse me 1 second, my phone dies. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So that is that's where the world was, but the world today is very different. And I think that you're an eloquent person, you're a thinking person. You'll meet a thinking woman, and you'll explain it to her, and she'll be like, "Well, that makes sense," because it does.
man.
I mean,
Thank you.
it makes a lot more
Yeah.
sense than anything else. It's like, okay, people, and that's really one of the ways, I mentioned it last week, and we'll get more into it about what is called idolatry, because, like I say, there are people that I don't want to. I understand the problems of the religious views they espouse, but in a lot of ways, if I don't know that they would qualify as idolaters, because if I question them, what do you really believe? They may really believe in one God. Now, it might not be the perfect understanding, maybe problems, and maybe, but a lot of times people do believe. So why do they do what they do? And most people do what they do because of the habits of where they came from. I was told this many times. I mean, I was people that was in a conversion program with me who were born Christian. A lot of times they explained to me some of the dynamics, and I'm sure people know, many of you know more than me. I only heard from secondhand, but there's the story of the kid who was in school, and he raised his hand and he asked some kind of question, like how does God something, whatever. He had a question, and the nun in the class says, "Okay, class, now let's pray for Johnny's soul. The devil has obviously attacked his soul." So Johnny's never going to ask the question again. You have a question, and then you're told that the devil has your soul, and you're like a kid, and I just had a question. So people get shut down because they have fears to ask and to think about it. But the world is changing, and it's so funny how it's changing. It's like they've thrown out a lot of the old religion. I mean, that already happened with the scientific revolution. I mean, Christianity obviously took a major blow with science, because when the church emissaries would not look into Galileo's telescope, well, that really just made a tremendous rift between what was viewed as religion and science. So as science was growing, so the dogmatic ideas that were against that before now became a problem. So some people are let's say religious Christians who are also scientists, but how they put those two together, I don't know. I'm not I don't have a problem when I see Age of the Universe. I don't get nervous. There's so many deep level understandings of time. Like I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, I was learning it today. The theory of relativity of time was not made by Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein he wasn't an unintelligent Jew, but he wasn't such hot stuff. I mean, he was okay, but the theory of relativity that it translates to a book written by Abraham. Is a book written by Abraham. Rabin wrote a book. And we have in that book, and it talks about the theory of relativity of time. I've seen it in many different sources. This is an old Jewish concept. So I don't get excited, but if you don't understand know how to learn Torah, so when science came, so religion seemed to be a problem. So now what's happened in the world is people have become less religious, except for the Muslims, because the Muslim part of their nature says it's Abraham who married Hagar, and Hagar was from the ancient Egyptians, not the Egyptians today. They're not the same people, but the ancient Egyptians were called. They were wild. They were called like they had a very strong I say animalistic, but a very strong wildness to them. It's called a para adam. Para adam is the quality of a believer from Abraham, and the quality of this wildness that came from the Egyptian. And so what happens is that the Muslims, have a lot of them have very, very strong beliefs, but it's not controlled. So it's like, okay, if I do this, I'll do this and I'll do that. So, but on the whole, the Western world become less religious, but people still do want meaning. It's what meaning that makes sense to them. Mm-hmm. So, Stephen, if you go and you talk to somebody and meet someone, yeah, you don't go down their path, but you explain to them, and if it's the right person for you, they're gonna say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Not a hard sell. All right, thanks. Okay,
Rabbi,
what else
I want to throw something in here real quick because I just remembered it. Almost forgot it. We've almost run out of time. Stephen, one of the things that is commented in Judaism, that marriage helps to improve both you and your spouse, or vice versa. You improve each other. That what makes it better to be married is that you are able to grow and mature, hopefully spiritually mature, go through challenges, arguments, disagreements, and learn from each other. That's where it's good. It doesn't mean that you're bad because you haven't married. It just means that there are some things that you're missing out on, some fundamental things that you'll miss out on. Look, I had a very good friend of mine, Orthodox guy, who divorced many years ago, never got remarried. And he was only married for like 2 years or 3 years. And, at the time that I met him, he was in his 70s. And he just lacked social, social grace, things that your wife would go, don't do that, right? He didn't have that. So you'd be sitting, eating supper with him, and if he gets soup in his beard, he doesn't wipe the soup out with a rag. He just goes, rub it on his pants, right? Little things like that. I mean, he was the sweetest. He's still the sweetest man there is, but he just lacks, that little thing that I know that if I didn't have a wife to keep me in line, I would be doing some pretty ridiculous things. And so that's what I wanted to throw in. I'm sorry, Rabbi, I had to.
No, it's good.
Little
It's
twist.
good. I agree. I think it was important because, as I said, it's not one of 7 Noachide laws. So so I'm saying, we can avoid the negative. We have to avoid the negative, but if we understand the root of the positive, then we can also understand
that's it.
Why things don't. Why are there these forbidden aspects? Why is it? And the answer is because the deeper sense is that the 7 commandments and all the commandments, the 13 for the Jews, 7 for the non-Jews, what they are is they make us whole. We need different commandments because just like you go into a garden and you don't water the same different flowers in the same way, and you don't treat them at different needs. But the seven mitzvot is what is going to make a person whole. So when they go and they commit, and this is why the commandment is in the negative, if they commit acts that are breaking the potential unity in the person, they go and they commit adultery, they go and they do bestiality, they go and they have into all the forbidden relations that we talk about. So they're breaking the depths of what the human being, is and can be. So you're right. It doesn't say that the one of the 7 commandments is not to get married. Those 7 commandments, but I wanted to show you the potential of what it could be, to understand that all the negative things that we learn come out from the idea that it's not a union. And when you try to unify two things that don't go together, that's very bad. That's very bad. That's just going to blow up. You can't put things together that don't go together. Okay, you create an explosion in the laboratory. So, but you're right. You have to evolve. And now that we heard this, and you've come to the place you've come to, maybe that'll be your next step in growth. That would be great.
Bless you,
Thank you. A
guys.
lot. I appreciate it.
There is also an aspect that I think it's important to understand. This is not about, I always try to ask Noah Heiss to step back a little bit and realize that yes, we categorize, sin, missing the mark, not doing a mitzvah, blah, 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 blah. But if we could step back and realize that the master of the universe has orchestrated this masterful waltz of humanity together, that as they do mitzvahs, as they are married together, et cetera, we help to sustain the fabric of creation itself. And that people that practice deviant behavior, that are violent, that are hateful, et cetera, they destroy the fabric of creation. And it's important to understand we are motivated not because we're scared to sin. We want to be a part of repairing the fabric of creation by our goodness. That's what this is about.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks so much. I think Nancy had your hand
Car?
up. Car?
Real quick, would you say too that getting married is on the positive sense of what you guys are saying is, I can only put out so much light by myself. But if I'm married and I'm making a picture of the oneness of God in this world, I can bring out so much more light. Two being
sure.
one than
Beautiful.
just one.
For sure,
Beautiful.
100%. So much
Beautiful.
so that yeah, it's a different thing. It's a different thing. It's called the wholeness of a person. If you read the text is very interesting. In the beginning, Adam, the term Adam was not the male name. It was the name for both male and female. So God created male and female and called him Adam. So really, there's two ways to look at the creation. The wholeness of a person is considered to be the male, female. That's why I gave the example before of like carving something out, because the person does not have the ability to have the wholeness to do all the things that need to be done. Now, again, as I said with Stephen before, it's not one of 7 commandments per se. So it's forbidden to do deviant type of unifications that will not unite. But when I look at the positive and I say, okay, if I understand that I am now in the image of way humanity was supposed to be, I can now create and have a child. I can now do all of the ability to give to the other, to expand, to be more godlike. I create more and I build more, for sure. 100%. 100%.
Stephen, I just wanted to tell you too, my son's 32 and we feel the same way. Like, how can you find anybody that believes like us?
Yeah.
And he prayed and he did all of these things to try to bring and draw this person. And he found somebody and she was not no-eyed. She was just like spiritual. She wasn't super grounded Christian, but he has fed her what the rabbi was saying to you, tell her about how you believe. She has come to this with open arms. I mean, we're just shocked. She is fitting into this so beautifully. It's like a miracle and it's wonderful. So there are people being drawn just like the rabbi and
Yeah.
is saying. So she's out there.
And
Yeah, it's really, it's
Like-
really, it's really there. It's not, you know, because it's like you know, to tell someone to become Jewish is a lot, is a lot. And I'm not saying we do that, but I'm saying, but to tell someone to keep the 7 laws of Noah, to have a structure in their life of truth and direction to function, why would anyone say no?
Right.
Why would anyone say
Right.
no? I'm not saying for just say no if they want to come to, but I'm saying if I tell you, okay, you have to get up tomorrow. You know, tomorrow we have the minyan. I gotta gotta pray with the 10 people, and we have a whole schedule from the thing. So maybe someone say it's too much. The 7 Noahide laws is not too much.
Mm-mm.
It's not too much. It's the structure that every person, by definition, who is a
Should be doing.
normal, healthy person, strives and yearns for. And that's really what's happening now. That's why if you look at what's going on in the world, you'll see as we track through the 7 mitzvot, you'll see the deviant nature of the society is because there's deep problems, and they come out in all of these things. There is no understanding of male, female. Somehow the things that were obvious to everyone for thousands of years is no longer obvious. Even things that just like you're like, what are you saying? But people have become so now, and that's why I started last week with the issue of idolatry, because I believe in the root of it, as I think Dan said and some other people said last week, was that the root of it, it's because there is this rejection of there is no objective truth. There is no God that dictates male, female, right or wrong. It's a Disney world where you create whatever you want to create. So that's what's so very often a lot of these movements, communism and called wokeism already, are really founded on the first idea of the rejection of a source of truth. But if you look at all these things, you'll see the world's falling apart because they really don't have the parameters. I think you'll be able to convince anyone who's an honest person to say, yeah, wow, why not? And it's so funny also because, like, you speak to a Christian, speak to a Muslim, Baha'i, they all argue with each other. They all agree to one thing: that God gave the Jews the Torah. He took them as the chosen people. That they all agree to. So, okay, so let's take out the other stuff that you don't agree on. Let's go with what we all do agree with. We know that this was the structure. This is how the world started. That's a majority of the world believes that. They just don't. They just created for various reasons why they created the alternative. And the truth is, and I'll get to it maybe next week. I think I want to share that it's very deep. It's running out of time now, but there was different reasons why different nations created different religions. There were certain things that went against people's grain, and I was thinking about it. I'll end with this thought here because it's very. I'm just shocked when I'm seeing what's going on in the world with people talking about genocide. I'm like, wow. The way the world is structured right now, if the Jews had the artillery to turn around to the Nazis that were trying to kill them, and they would kill the Nazis that were trying to kill them, they would be called
Genocide.
That's the way to look at it. So,
Yeah.
so when you look at it, you're like, you really wonder, like, wow, how people don't understand what's right and what's wrong. So, I was thinking about the rules of war, the laws of war, and I realized, it's an amazing thing because the people that made these rules of war, these are people who really like war. They like war. Because what kind of things rules of war? If you could make a rule of war, why don't you make a rule of no war? Huh? If you could make a rules of war, I have a good one. War is forbidden. No. We have a place for war. They look for wars. Now, what
Well,
wars
it's part
they
of
make?
it's part of our economy, Rabbi.
It's part of the economy, and it's part of Edom. That is Rome. Rome is war. Rome is war. It's part of the economy. It's part of the mentality. Now, I want to tell you something. It's amazing. You know what the First World War was? What the First World War was? The First World War is in the Torah. It was called the War of the Five Kings against the Four Kings. It was five mighty kings, and they swept across from the east. They came towards east and the northeast of Israel. They came in and they fought against the other four kings, the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah. They fought against them, and Abraham enters into this war. You know why he entered into this war? It's amazing. It says he wanted to save his nephew, but it says something else. It says that he was so angry, so jealous. How could anyone fight a war? How is it possible? How could it be? He had to stop it. Even though he was going out in this a small bunch of people, 318 people to fight an entire massive army. But he was incensed by the idea to it. Now, why people fight war? So there's a few reasons. One is land. Now, land is a very funny issue because the problem is that nobody knows what the 70 nations and 70 plots of land. People don't even know it's their land. As a matter of fact, the only ones who do know where the plot of land is the Jews. So it's really funny because when they say, "Oh yeah, the Jews we're not in Israel," the only problem is that as you see, they had all these things here where where Christians who said, I don't know what AOC said something about where JC was born. He was Jewish. He was born in Bethlehem. So if you're Christian, then you have to, even if you're Muslim, you have to accept it because Abraham, Isaac. So the Jewish people are the ones that we know where the land is. Everyone else, we don't really know. So the problem is when you put the demarcation point, you say, okay, who owned the land after World War II? After 1990, when the USSR fell, and all of these things are like people claiming that their land is being attacked. But the problem is that very often these are disputes of people who claim the land in some way. Is their claim right or wrong? I don't know. Taiwan, China, I don't know. People can make their claims. I know the Jews' claim to the land is correct. The other reason why people fight wars, and this is the only reason why the Jews fight a war, and this is really the fascinating thing, is that there's a nation called Amalek, where the Jews need to fight. But why did Jews fight Amalek? Who are Amalek? Well, Amalek are what's called Nazis. That's what Amalek is. The defining factor of Amalek is they want to kill Jews. So when you want to know who a Nazi is, the one who wants to kill the Jew. When the Jew goes to go kill back the Nazi who's trying to kill them, that's not called genocide. That's called self-defense. And that's the obligation of the Torah. So people have lost their minds. They don't even know what side is good, what side is evil. And that's why people try to explain to people if you want to know who a Nazi is, it's a very simple demarcation. Do they want to kill Jews? Because it's not a new thing that's going on. Why did Nazis want to kill Jews? Well, why do they want? Who are they fighting? Jews are fighting God. That's what it says. Amalek were the original Nazis, what Amalek was. And when the Jews came out of Egypt and the world was changing, they had to stop it. They couldn't live with this. So when you have people who are making different philosophies, different religions, you got to look into the root of what the belief system is. And that's what I'm trying to do with the 7 Commandments now. If someone denies God, or he makes his own understanding of God, or he makes a multiple God world, then he's already cut off from truth and goodness. If he doesn't understand that there is a structure And there's requirements on how a human being has to put themselves parameters and unite only with those that you could unite with. He's creating new ideas and new philosophies that are going to be to his detriment. And that's why if a person keeps the 7 Noahide laws, they keep their body and mind and soul intact. And if they don't, they're all over the place, and there's various reasons why they do it, because in some place in them they're supporting something, whether it's war, whether it's unbridled, wanton physical desires, or whatever it is, but it's something that's not healthy and balanced and will not lead to wholeness ever. Okay, that's my
Rabbis,
thoughts.
beautiful
Brilliant.
class. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Brilliant class.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely spot on. Thank you very much. Rabbi,
All right,
thank
you're
you
going to
so
be
much,
in
Rabbi.
Israel how much longer?
Well, our flight was canceled. Delta canceled the flight. So now we're working out
Of course.
a new flight.
Have you ever
so I
known
think
Delta not to cancel a flight?
Yeah. So the only one flying out now is El Al. But so I think a few more weeks, and then we'll be in the States. We're doing some speaking in Atlanta, and then we'll be in Florida a little bit, and then we will be in Texas. We're going to put the dates out very soon. Just we got to work out the flights and different things. But if you are in Florida, California, I'd love to go to California. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. What's California like these days? Gosh, sounds terrible. What a beautiful place. I wasn't planning California this time, but I will plan a trip to California. I will plan a trip to California. We'll try to have it. Yeah, I almost took a job as a rabbi in California years ago. This guy brought me in, and he was a record producer. He wanted me to rabbi at a synagogue. And like I play music and I do Tai Chi, I do all these different things. He saw me doing Tai Chi, he got so excited. He said, "Wow, you gotta be the rabbi of our community here." And then he brings me up to the room I was staying in, and it had like this beautiful mural of with mirrors, and it looked just beautiful, and the place was gorgeous. And then I went into this mall, and it was the most beautiful mall I ever saw. It was palm trees, and it had this a glass skylight, and the palm trees were growing there. I was like, wow, this is really incredible. And all of a sudden, the song came on in the mall of Hotel California. And it says, "You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave." I said, "Get me out there."
Yeah, get out while the getting's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I get that. I get that, Rabbi. That is so good.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you have the southern sensibility of an Atlantean from Atlantic from the Atlantic area of Georgia.
Yeah,
it was a great place.
And that's really why I decided to California. It was beautiful. It was physically beautiful.
Well,
But
you know,
I said I can't raise my kids here. It's too hard. It's just,
well, let me tell
Disney
you, I
World, as
found
you said
out
it today. I love it.
the reason why taxes are so high in California and gas is so high and rent is so high, it's the privilege of living in good weather. Because
Yeah.
it's a beautiful place,
Beautiful.
weather-wise.
Yeah, well, look, they didn't have to,
Yeah,
they didn't have
but
to
West
mess up.
West
They
West
messed it
Coast
up.
is getting so many wildfires the last several years, and I don't see that letting
Well,
up
now
anytime
they're
soon.
dealing with coastal flood, like the ocean coming in and tearing up beaches and everything right now. So, anywho,
Cheyenne, be in touch. I have my amazingly, a lot of my synagogue has been moving to Israel over the past couple years, and now that I'm here a lot, I have
Baruch Hashem.
many of my congregants are calling me, and we're helping them set up. So Cheyenne, be in touch, and we're definitely happy those that are moving to Israel. It's good. It's good.
I was going to ask,
And
Cheyenne,
I'll talk about this in Florida, and I'll talk about this, God willing, when we get to Texas also. It's amazing how the spirit in Israel is so good, even though it's going on. But like it's like you have a time where there are always leftist secular Israelis. There's been that for a lot of time. Not a lot of time, because years ago all Jews were religious, but in the 1840s, when the Reform movement started, different things happened, and different social turmoil. So many Jews became, not observant, and those very often are strong left wing with a lot of weird ideas, because these are people that want to help, have a powerful soul to do good, and they don't know what it is. They're not following the Torah, so they're making up their own ideas. But what's happened is that this has woken people up. And a lot of the people that were very distant from Torah are much closer, and they really are seeing things, and everyone has the sense that that God has a trust in Hashem. And it's, obviously a tough time, but a very optimistic time in the fact that the entire nation feels trust and confidence in Hashem. And it's really it's beautiful, and God willing, we'll see beautiful miracles, and hopefully, the people who are going to see the truth will see the truth, and the people who are not, sometimes you can't convince them, because they really are the embodiment of something not good, and it's not, sometimes it's lack of information, but very often it's just, there is a Moloch in the world. There are people that are Nazis that will just hate the idea of the Jewish people as being the emissaries of God's Torah into the world, and that's a reality. That is part of the world. It's not. It is there, and God willing, that we're going to see redemption really soon for the entire world.
Dan, it's all yours, brother.
Oh no, yeah, excellent, Rabbi. Yeah, we look forward to the day when his name is one, and everybody in the world recognizes the authority of Hashem, the kingship of Hashem, and the light bulbs turn on, and the reason for all the darkness that people see is brought to light, and things get better. I mean, the knowledge of God to cover the earth as water covers the sea. And
That's right,
Rabbi, we appreciate this series. I thank you for today's class. So Hashem willing, are you okay for next week?
God willing, yes, we should be okay for next week, God willing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rod, for hosting the Zoom meeting. And we're going to sign out for now. So till next week, we'll be back with more of our Working Together series with Rabbi Carmi Ingber out of the Nativ Zoom room. Till then, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Steve, can we connect this week?
Connect, yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, me and you connect, call. Let's chat
yeah.
on WhatsApp or WhatsApp.
Yeah,
I'll text you and find out when you're available. I was trying to get Stephanie to stay, but she couldn't. So anyway, Stephen, take care of yourself, my brother. Talk to you later.
Cheers, brother. All right, bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Rod, you want to call later
Okay,
on?
David.
Oh.
No. We can stay here. Let me turn the record.